Welcome to the North Idaho Experience Podcast, the show for real stories, local voices, and the lifestyle that defines North Idaho. I'm your host, Seth Horst, a real estate professional and former police officer. In today's episode, Dave and I sit down with Julie Hensley. She's running for Kootenai County Commissioner, District 1. As a side note, we are not publicly endorsing any candidates. We are just providing information to the public so you guys can make an informed decision at the voting polls, which are coming up May 19th. Here in North Idaho. If you have additional questions or comments or thinking about making the move here, give our team a call, text, or email. Contact info is in the show notes. Enjoy.
What's up?
Julie's running for County Commissioner, District 1.
I just heard that.
Okay.
Because I typically just walk in and we start the podcast. So.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate
That's exciting. Thanks for coming on, Julie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, County Commissioner. That is cool.
I don't actually know what they do. Do you?
Yes, I do.
That's a good start. That was a trick question.
Right?
She's like, oh, yeah, nice try, guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's always good because we get a lot of people that jump on this podcast and they hear people running for positions. And truth be told, we just had someone running for assessor. And we learned a lot about it. So for anybody that's listening, what exactly is a county commissioner for Kootenai County? And what are your responsibilities?
So they actually do have a very large responsibility. We do a lot of the budgeting. So your law enforcement budgeting, it kind of allocates all the money that you pay into taxes for your county. You're the one that allocates that money to all the different entities. We also do zoning and planning. So it's very important because anybody who's out in county, you're responsible for making the policies that allow building and things like that. And like coming up right now, we have the comprehensive plan. That is a huge part of county commissioner, is making sure that comprehensive plan is what the people want. And so that is a huge thing right now. I've been encouraging everybody, like, sign up. They have it on Kootenai County's website to be able to sign up, to be able to put in your input, because that is what's going to dictate what happens in our county down the road.
Now, that plan, what did you refer to it as?
The comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan. That plan, it outlines a certain amount of years down the road where we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right?
Yes.
What is the breadth of that? Is it about 10 years when they look at the comprehensive plan? Is that kind of the time frame?
Yes, it even dictates all the way up to about 20 years because some of it is when you start doing this building and that, it takes some time to build it. Right. We're seeing right now in Post Falls stuff that was done 20 years ago is now affecting Post Falls. And so really you do have to look 5, 10, and even 20 years down the road to see what Kootenai County is looking like.
Right. And accounting for growth and all of that.
And accounting for growth.
Yeah, which is considerable right now.
Yes, very considerable.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, I guarantee there's somebody listening right now and be like, nobody else can move here. Nobody else can move here. So what, I mean, I would be willing to bet that there's people that run off that platform that, like, my idea of a comprehensive plan is that nobody else can move here, that we want to keep, migration low, that we want to preserve the prairie, that we want to do these things. Is this type of the stuff that you hear with this?
It is stuff that we hear. I would say more people say be responsible with it.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that are transplants, I'm one of them. And so we've seen what irresponsible growth can actually do to a community. It changes the culture. And Kootenai County here, we have an amazing culture. So that is something that you need your comprehensive plan. If you want to maintain a culture in an area, how growth happens affects that. Right now, infrastructure is huge. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard, our jail is highly impacted right now.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of inmates, and that's part of our infrastructure. We've got the sewer lines, our dumps. If we make it to where growth is overgrowing that, the taxpayers are going to have a huge burden on their hand because infrastructure costs a lot of money.
Well, you look at places like Spirit Lake, right? They got a moratorium right now on the sewer and water system. So even a small community like that, like, there has to be planning. And I think there's certain events, obviously 5 years ago, certain things that you can't forecast, right? So you get behind the curve, but that can be pretty dangerous. I know schools are a big issue right now. And my daughter goes to Lake City and she's like, man, it's huge.
Oh,
they
need another high school?
Yeah.
Like,
are they supposed to put one in Cortair?
No, middle school, I believe. Middle school in Cortair. Am I correct? Are you familiar?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure they're doing the Mormon temple over there. Middle school. They're doing some high density housing. I think 2,500 homes, parks.
Someone just had an absolute cardiac event when you said 2,500 homes.
Yeah, 2,500 homes. And just Cortair. And
it seems impossible. I roughly know the area, and it's like, wow, that's a lot right there.
It is a lot. I know they're doing that, and I know that I believe there's a middle school, and it's online. If you search up Cortare, they got the whole plan. And, it's crazy. Something we deal with, too, because you talk about planning. I had clients recently that were looking to buy a house on a certain street. They're like, oh, it's so quiet over here. I go, well, over the next 3 years, they're going to punch this street through, and it's going to be one of the main veins back into Cortare. And they're like, what's that? Well, that stuff isn't necessarily disclosed by a lot of agents and a lot of people selling their homes, and that's a huge material fact, right? So that development, I don't know if I could ever run for your position, because just the stress of having to have the weight of a development of a community 20 years down the road, the decisions you can make now could affect people 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah. Most of that is done in the cities, not as much as in the counties. Counties, we have, a lot of 5-acre parcels, not as much high density, but part of it is the counties being currently annexed into the cities. I've spoken a lot at the city of Post Falls because of things like the school.
Right.
We had a development behind us. They were doubling the density population. And I called our school and I'm like, hey, what are we at for capacity? They're like, well, we're at 100% capacity. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do with all these students when this is built out? Like, they would be allocated to this school.
We don't have a plan.
No
for
plan.
that.
But truthfully, you know, like you said, the annexation and everything else, but I think people are more concerned with the county because you look at Post Falls and you don't expect to go there and buy 5 acres and sit, right? Like you expect it to develop. You look at it, you see what's happening. What people don't want to see happen is those areas like Athol and unincorporated Rathdrum and the northern part of Hayden and Cougar Gulch and, these other areas. Nobody would want to see tract homes going in there. So there's a lot. I think there's almost more impression with the county that protects the outlying areas than you would say with the cities, because you have an expectation the cities are going to grow.
Right, and that does control growth because, like Coeur d'Alene, for example, has really nowhere else to go other than vertical at this point. Post Falls has room to grow. Rathdrum does too, but I think that you're right. You start messing around with Athol and these outlying areas.
Right.
Now, I mean, it's all gone at that point.
And so there's a lot of, I think that's a huge undertaking to even be involved in something like that, because you put your name on that, and it's a lot of stress, and you're always going to have people that don't like you.
That is very true.
Right.
But I think the biggest thing is like actually diving into it and looking at it and talking with the people.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a huge thing, is discussing people, the community. It's like the people who are out in Athol and that. It's like, what do you want your community to look like down the road? It's like, this is how, I would like to keep it the way it is, where it's, a little bit more out in the country.
Right.
But it is really asking citizens, and most citizens will tell you they want to make sure that it stays country and they can have their horses and 4-H, and that is very important to people.
I just want to pee off my deck and shoot my guns in my yard. Is that so much to ask?
I did the other morning. I'm like,
damn
like
right.
5 feet away. I'm still out the deck.
Yeah, I do it at the same time sometimes.
So let me ask you a question, because this is probably one of the most important things to me, is motivation, right? People don't just jump out and run for county commissioner. So tell us, what is the reason that you decided, you know what, I'm going to go through all this. I'm going to try to run for public office. I'm going to do these things, take on a huge undertaking. What is it that spurred this in you, and why is it important to you? Why are you doing this?
If you had asked me 5 years, are you going to go into public? I would have said absolutely not. It actually started spurring when I started speaking at city council meetings and that. And I was like, wow, I would end it and people would come up to me and they're like, you need to run for office. And I'm like, no, I'm good just speaking. And it was just one after another. People would come up to me and said, we need somebody. And finally, my husband and I, we sat down and talked, and it's like, well, what's going to happen for our future generation, for our children? And so it was really looking at our kids. Like we moved here. We came from Southern California when we had kids. I know.
I'm just
kidding. I said that whole word.
Sorry, we bleep out that now on the podcast, so you're good.
That's good. I'm glad. But we moved here because we wanted a community that Kootenai County has that shares our same values, and to be able to raise our family. Mm-hmm. And if we don't protect that, our kids aren't going to have that as well. And so that's the biggest thing, I feel like, is helping our future generation to ensure that we have a county that still has nice values and conservative.
Yeah. Can we touch on, so you're from Southern California. I want to know about Julie. Your husband's retired law enforcement.
Yep.
Okay. Obviously we like that. What do you do for work?
So I'm kind of have many hats.
Okay.
My husband and I, we own multiple small businesses. He started inventing stuff in the gun industry, and so we sell that on e-commerce.
I didn't know this now.
Yeah,
Tell me more.
So he ended up doing, it's called Operator Survival Tool, and he started making all these tools and inventing them, like AR-15, AR-10 cleaning tools. He does reusable targets and went into that industry. So that's one of our things. He does apparel for Green Gi Guy. It's a bunch of different apparel in the jiu-jitsu world.
Oh, come on now. He does jiu-jitsu too. Just stop. She did research on us. I think that's what happened.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we own a bunch of small commercial properties that helps house other small businesses, because when we were starting a business, we couldn't find a place to call home. And so we ended up investing in a place in Post Falls, and we're like, other small businesses must need this. And we were hit up like no other. Like, I get calls, do you have a space right now? Sorry, we're full. And then we've kind of branched out to other areas in the United States and do the same thing. And
that's cool.
It's kind of funny because I get phone calls about it. They're like, well, is this per week or per month? I'm like, no, it's per month. Like, I understand your business. You need to fix thing, and
that's awesome.
We want to help out. So
very cool. Very cool.
And I'm a nurse.
You're also a nurse.
I'm also a nurse.
We don't have to say where. That's fine. But that's fantastic. So you guys, you come from a service background, both your whole family.
Yes, I worked in an ER for 10 years, and now I work in the operating room.
What ER?
St. Joseph Hospital in Orange County.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were the second busiest ER in the state at the time when I was there.
So you've seen a few gunshot wounds, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Just a couple. So that's why you didn't bat an eye when Dave was talking about his hemorrhoid before we started. It makes sense.
Maybe we got some of that.
We might have caught some of that.
That's funny.
How long you guys been up here?
Since 2018.
Okay.
So a little over 8 years.
Yeah. Cool. That's a while. And you guys have kids as well?
We do. We got 2 little ones.
Cool.
They're almost 7 and 9. They keep reminding me that their birthday's coming up. So
you said you've been going to town council meetings, city council meetings, and speaking up there. What have you been talking about there? What's been like the big, what's the push?
A lot of it is the growth.
Okay.
And really you have to speak with facts and not emotions, right? So it was really going through, and I would sit there and it's like, hey, this is a minor collector road. And it's like, the minor collector road's only supposed to house this many people, and yet you want this density on this road that would over that capacity. And so it was really using those numbers and kind of letting them see, like, no, this infrastructure doesn't match what we have on our comprehensive plan.
Got it. Okay.
So holding them accountable.
Yes.
We need a lot more of that these days.
That's tough, man.
Yeah. And you're running for District 1.
Yes.
Who are you running against?
John Padula.
Okay. Is there an incumbent running as well, or is it just a whole new fresh race at this point?
No, the incumbent the person currently in the position is Mark Eberline, and he is stepping down and endorsing me as.
Okay, cool. Any other endorsements locally?
The KCRCC has endorsed me as well.
We had Brent Reagan on the podcast. It has not released yet. It will by the time you guys hear this. Recently. So, yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
And Randy Westland has also, and Bruce Matari.
Randy's one of the guys that reached out to me about you. He's the mayor of Post Falls, if you're wondering.
Yeah, he was a cool dude.
He was. He's sharp.
He was smart.
He's very smart. I'm seeing more and more young people stepping up that are much more intelligent than me and you. And I'm appreciating that. When I said you, I was looking at Dave. If
you didn't even have
to
say that.
Yeah,
about me,
I'm just saying.
That's fine.
And it excites me to see that, like, people stepping up that are getting into office for like a duty, right? It's your civic duty, and I appreciate that. I think people are tired of the old guard, just been in office forever. And it's very easy to be there for a long time and become apathetic, or make too many friends and then have to give favors. I'm not saying anybody in particular. I'm saying that's pretty likely that would happen for anybody.
Yeah. Okay. So, money, right? Mm-hmm. How's the budget? Is it pretty antiquated, or where are we at with the budget in terms of, you guys obviously would have to sit down and approve a budget. Have you looked at the current budget for Kootenai County?
I have. It's currently $144 million. They're actually going through right now and doing a new budget analysis. And it is quite large, and being able to go through line by line and seeing where we can save money. Because in reality, down the road, I mean, we're seeing it. All of us are feeling it. You go to the grocery store, it's like, I used to go and spend $200, and now I'm spending $500. And so...
And that's
you
why
must
I'm
shop
asking.
at Pilgrims, too.
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, that's why I'm asking, right? Is it antiquated? Is it at the point where, like... We've had a lot of inflation, right? And budgets don't change super fast. So when you hear somebody say, like, I want to save money, I want to lower taxes, I want to decrease budgets, but then you've gone through, 2020 to 2023 where things have just skyrocketed, it starts to become a little difficult to try to accomplish that, right? So is the budget in your eyes, like, is there enough there if it was spent right? Because it's usually a spending problem, not an income problem, right? Do you think there's enough there to get the things done that are important, like schools and public safety and healthcare and things like that?
I do. So the school is separate from the county.
Oh, okay.
And one thing is we can't collect impact fees in the state of Idaho for schools. So any of this growth that's happening, we can't collect impact fees. And that's a big thing right now. Luckily, it got approved. I believe it's HB 556 is something that just got passed to allow for our jail to get more money for inmates that are coming in, because that is a huge portion of our budget is law enforcement in that. And part of recouping that money is paying for inmates. So that will at least be helpful, plus paying their medical as well, because as we all know, medical costs have skyrocketed. And that's one thing with the county that has gone up a lot is the budget for health insurance. And I can hope that, we can actually get cross borders insurance, but that is a federal regulation that hopefully will get addressed, because that would actually help out a lot.
Okay. So do you think, and like I said, I know I keep diving into the budget, and some of this you may not be privy to just because you haven't been sitting in that seat, right? But I guess, one of the big things about North Idaho is that people are very anti-tax. Right? They don't like levies. They don't like anything that's going to take more money out of their pockets. People freak out when the assessor shows up to check their house, right? To see if it's there, because people do not like that. They don't like government influence. So being in a governmental position that basically is responsible for divvying out people's income, right, that they've given to this to the county, that's a difficult spot. And so there's a lot of needs that need to happen. And $144 million sounds like a lot of money, but it goes really quick. And so I guess what I'm really getting at is, do you think going in there, do you have a goal to limit spending so that is actually pushed back? Are there ideas that you've had in terms of how you guys are going to manage that money and whether or not it's actually going to be enough to do what you guys need to accomplish? Or not knowing as much as you probably will when you sit in that seat, is this something we got to forecast that it has to go up?
I feel like a lot of it is looking at it, which I've been doing a lot. I actually sat down with Jennifer, who's the county clerk, and went over a lot of different numbers, because it's very extensive looking at the budget. But I feel like it is a very important thing to be able to actually look fully at it. Right now we're doing okay. But with inflation, it is going to start getting hard. And that is one thing, at least being a business owner, it's something I've done. I've lived very fiscally conservative my entire life. That's how I've been able to buy assets, is I've lived a frugal life. And part of it is looking at everyday budgeting and seeing. And I feel like the biggest thing we're missing is data and to back stuff up. So like they want a new dispatch center right now. And it's like, okay, so besides a new dispatch center, how much would it cost to redo our dispatch center?
Right.
And how long will that last us for? And how many dispatch people do we currently have in each position? And how many 911 phone calls are they getting over, and in comparison to how many 911 phone calls is the national average, to see because if you're asking for, we need more employees, because that's the biggest part of government is they grow, right? But you need to actually show me the data to make it to where we do need a new position. Because in the county, one of the largest budgets is paying for people.
And
so it's making sure each person is
Yeah. And I think that's frustrating to people too, right? Because you talk about data. I mean, you're talking about consulting and having people come in, third parties, to run all these numbers and give you guys an accurate, detailed assessment to be able to say, hey, we this would be a better idea, or this is where you need to go. That costs a lot of money, and it doesn't always mean that that's what gets enacted. So you see a lot of that too in government, where there's a lot of these assessments done, and then it doesn't necessarily result in actual change. So I speak from a lot of taxpayers and everybody else that gets very frustrated. It's like being asked at home, what do you want for dinner? Do you want spaghetti or do you want peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? And you're like, well, I want peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then you get spaghetti. And you're like, what the hell? So, I mean, the consulting side is pretty tough. Are there any things right now when you talk about data, since that's a big issue, is there any of these that are going on right now to try to assess where the county needs to go?
I know currently they're looking at the sheriff's department with Hayden.
Okay.
I know it's a big thing they've been requesting for, is seeing how much time that our sheriffs are allocated to the city, which I think the city should know that, like that.
Sure.
It's being transparent, is one of the data things they've been asking for. I haven't looked at seeing many of the other things they've been asking for recently,
Right.
but that is something I feel like you need to be able to back yourself. And it's actually, you wouldn't have to get a third-party person for it. You have elected officials that are in those positions that can
Like that would
get
be
that
something
information.
you would do if you were in that position, like figure that information out? Or are you talking
Like
about
the county
sheriff
clerk,
himself?
the sheriff, like they
Gotcha.
can get that
Right.
information themselves. They don't need a...
Because ultimately, they need to get that information and bring you guys the budget. This is why we need the money. Here's the stats. Here's the statistics. Here's where we're going. And you guys have to approve that. Right?
Yes.
So they have to sell it to you.
Yes, I say it like this. If my kid comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Mom, I need money," it's easy to say, no. "Hey, Mom, my shoes don't fit. Can you see that I need new shoes?" "Oh, well, then, yeah, I'll give you money for that."
Yeah.
But it's having to show the fact of, I need this money for this reason. I'm
Right.
not just going to pass it out and here's money for the ice cream truck every 5 minutes because
And I'm
we need to
certain
be
everybody's
responsible.
got the biggest reason to.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a definite thing. I feel like, at least in nursing, like when I worked in the ER, everybody's sitting there going, "I need a bed, I need a bed, I need a bed." And you were really having to prioritize who got a bed because, we'd have 40 people exactly.
The fireman. The guy, the ambulance. Yeah, sitting there with the guy on the bed. That needs a bed. I'm just saying, I've been on bed delay for 9 hours. I'm not happy with it.
That's insane.
Okay, yeah. The
That is a long
firemen.
time.
The firemen need the bed. Okay.
But it is literally assessing and looking at all the different situations. Like
Yeah.
I went and did a county jail tour because I need to actually see what's going on to be able to assess later on of, no, like we do need this. I went and spoke with the sheriff, the county clerk, and being able to analyze, it's like, what are your problems that you're having right now? How can we help you as county commissioner? And
Right.
that's same with talking with the people. I feel like that's a big thing, is talking and seeing is a huge way to actually see what's going on in our town.
Yeah, we just go ahead.
Well, do you have something on that? Because I was about to change subject.
I do. Yeah, I
Go,
mean, we just
go,
had
go.
we just had Mark Fitzpatrick up here, who's running for governor, and it was funny. That was one of his big things that he talked about, is the transparency with the people. There is a disconnect from people that get elected from what is actually happening out there on the streets, right? And so to have people in a position that are transparent, like you talked about, and honest, to be able to sit down and listen, which you're going to go through a lot of garbage, right? If you do an open forum, be like, how should I do my job? And you have everybody to come in, you're going to have a bunch of people that are drawing a line in different directions. But I think it's still important because you have to be able to take and get a real pulse as to what is best for the community. And the community has to buy off on that. So typically you have to be able to assess what they want and what is really best for everybody. And that's a tough decision to make. So that transparency and being able to do those things and talk to people is going to be huge, I think.
On that, good question.
You said you were changing the subject.
You actually did it for me
Oh,
and set me up.
gosh.
What's your strategy on how to communicate with the public when it comes down to that? How do they get their voice to you?
A lot of it, I feel like, is the open forums. I don't know if you know they call it BOCC, the Board of County Commissioner meetings. They are all online, which I absolutely love because then anybody can actually see what's going on in the county. They could sit and watch all the YouTube videos and see what's been going on and be able to go down there and voice it. And it's also having these extra... They have a bunch of meetings of what's going on in the town and want citizens' concerns. And I feel like it's getting that out online of, hey, that's what I was telling you. You go on Kootenai's website and actually get text message updates on what's going on with the comprehensive plan and when the next meetings are. And I feel like that's the biggest ways to encourage people to sign up for that, so that way they know when meetings are happening so they can attend when they can.
Do you think people are taking advantage of that now? Are people using that system, or is it just a few people?
I feel like a lot of people don't know about it.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like a lot of people don't know about it until something hits something in their backyard and they start getting notices and they're like, wait, what's going on in our community? And then they finally start realizing, oh, I need to be notified of this stuff and really start signing up for things. And so that would be something like down at the fair, like telling people like, hey, this is how you communicate with us. This is how you find out what's going on. If you want to know what events are going on, sign up here. So that way at least you can be notified. And it's doing things like being at the fair and different public events and educating people and letting them know.
Yeah. So if they get on kc.gov, They can find a link on there that will allow them to get notifications about this stuff. Okay, cool. See, I did not know that. That's good. Did you know that, Dave?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
What are the big ticket items with county commissioner? You talked about, like
growth,
law enforcement,
Yep.
everything else, like roads. Like, what are the big ticket items?
Yeah, growth is definitely number one. I feel like that is the number one on everybody's mind is growth. And that's why, to me, that comprehensive plan is the most important thing, because that is what dictates growth and not. And people don't realize that you actually have to. Right now, if you currently look at the comprehensive plan, there's a lot of vague wording and there's not a lot of data to support it. So a lot of stuff has to be rubber stamped, because if not, you're opening up to litigation, which will cost taxpayers even more money. So it's making sure that we actually have numbers behind. And part of that is the second goal is making sure we have the infrastructure and what our infrastructure data actually looks like. Because some of it we don't know. I actually just talked with the people for the aquifer and was asking them, like, hey, what's our status on this? And they're like, well, we actually don't know the water level status right now because it hasn't been evaluated in quite some time.
Oh boy.
And they're like, we're trying to get that done, because all we ever hear as citizens is, we've got enough water, we got enough water, we got enough water. But according to the scouts on the aquifer, she goes, well, we really haven't tested it recently. And I'm like, well, this might be something we need to do, so that way we actually have data-driven stuff, because, no one wants to end up like Flint, Michigan and
Especially
no water.
Especially over a 20-year plan, right? I mean, you're not evaluating it for today. You're evaluating it for 5, 10, 15 years down the road too. So, okay. So growth is the biggest thing.
Growth is the biggest thing. Seeing what infrastructure we have and what we're doing down the road with that to ensure that we have proper infrastructure that's going in, because those are huge tax burdens right there. And you don't want to be putting a burden on our current residents. And that's what will end up happening if growth continues to increase like it's been doing. And then the other thing is being that fiscal responsible person and being in there, making sure that our budgets are tight. And like, we had a building that was built, the justice system, and they went with, like, the assessments they had for that were astronomical. You go from 20 million to like 38 million, I think is what that ended up as.
Wow.
And part of it is being on top of that. Like, no business could ever do that. They couldn't be like, oh, we're going to be from 21 million to 38 million. And so I feel like it's making sure that people are kept accountable to what's being brought forth, so that way we're not causing taxpayers a bunch of money.
Got it.
Do you think the current plan is viable, or is it missing a lot that needs to be adjusted?
Our current comprehensive plan?
Yeah, the comprehensive plan, yep.
It's missing a lot because it's very open-ended and subject to interpretation. So it's be like, well, you can't have an undue burden on its citizens. Well, what's an undue burden to you versus what's an undue burden to you? They might have different definitions. So it's, how does that actually hold up in court?
Is that like a living document that's always being adjusted, or is that it was made 10 years ago and now we're seeing it through?
They usually adjust it every about 5-10 years. They
Okay.
do adjustments on it depending on what the county needs are. Because
I
like
hope so.
20 years ago, we
Yeah.
needed growth in this community, and that's what the comprehensive plan reflected. But they really haven't updated it much in the last 20 years, so it still reflects that wanting that increase in growth.
Okay. What kind of infrastructure stuff is coming up? Are you like tied in with that? I mean, I know people are. You shouldn't be frustrated with the 41 interchange. It's been going on a long time, but it's going to be good when it's done. Are there other big projects like that coming up that you know of?
The jail expansion is continuing on right now, which it's the inside pods. I got to see what they were actually building inside, which was kind of nice, because it was like, okay, this is what they mean by this is a pod, and this is how many people it's going to hold, because I got to see it
How many
firsthand.
does it hold now?
The jail.
A pod.
Well, we're expanding it by the 2 pods, which adds like another 200 units or something like that.
200
160.
units. How many people
Might
can
be
fit each
160
unit?
units. I think those units are 80 or something like that.
Oh,
I'd have to go back and see.
I got a simple fix. Make it 160. Doesn't have to be comfortable.
You're not there for comfort.
It is quite interesting to
I
see
know.
how full they are. I was like,
Oh, trust me. I've
don't
spent some
quote
time
me on
over
that
there.
160.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to think it back
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that, how the structure it was.
No, that's fine. Okay, so they're expanding that. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
and then Prairie Avenues. That is something that Post Falls and City Highway and that are really looking at, of expanding that all the way down in the future to 5 lanes. It's going to take some
Whoa.
time still, but it'll be 2 and then the
Yeah.
one center lane. So
Suicide lane down the middle. Because partway it's that right
It
now.
is, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to go all the way.
Through most of
To-
Hayden.
eventually
Wait,
they
to
wanted to go
41?
all the way down.
Wow.
Even to 53, I think.
Oh, wow.
You know what? It's a bummer because
would
I
make
think
sense.
one of the most common things that I hear of from people that have lived here from like 2000 or earlier is the prairies disappearing, right? And when you start hearing that, and it sucks to say that people that are local, and I'm talking like 2000 and before, are the minority, right? I mean, growth happens all over the country. It's not just here. It's happened everywhere. I came from a small town, and it was a small town, right? Like, I mean, when we got Walmart, it was like, what the heck is going on? It was amazing. I actually thought the cart where they push the carts through was a kid's door. I was like, you gotta go freaking! I was like 8 years old. It was amazing, right? So I came from a very small town, much smaller than what Coeur d'Alene was. And you see these things that you love, that you grow to, become part of you, and they start to disappear. So maintaining that is super important too, while at the same time, obviously adjusting for growth, right? I totally lost where I was going for that.
I don't know. Culture?
I had something pretty cool. But here's the thing. People are going to complain about both sides, right? I mean, look at the chaos that just happened with the freeway. They're cutting down all the trees.
Oh, the trees.
I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you know what? I'd rather them cut down there than cut them down by my house or somewhere else. Like, I mean, this is beautiful, right? And I get it. It really is. But you got the same people complaining about traffic as you do complaining about cutting down the trees so that you can. And then you have people that don't understand. Well, why don't they just widen it and leave the trees? Well, there's reasons why they can't. So you're going to get that on both sides, right? That's the problem with the growth plan, is the fact that growth plan is not something that's necessarily, well, except for the 20-year plan they had where they wanted growth, right? Growth isn't necessarily something that you can force. It's something that's just going to happen. You can do things to make it better for everybody that's here, or you can get a little outrageous and you can try to draw people in for whatever reason, whether it be tourism or, whatever. But the fact is that we're at a point now where you can't reasonably say, well, just don't let anybody else in, or we're not going to widen roads because it's going to mess things up. We don't need any more schools. We don't need any more houses. You do because my kids have decided that they're going to live here their whole lives, and they're going to have kids, and they're going to need a place to live. There's going to be growth. And if you don't responsibly, like you said, take care of the roads and take care of the schools, then you end up with crime. You end up with density problems. You end up with overwhelming resources like hospitals, roads, schools, law enforcement, everything like that, right? And then all the things that you were proud about your community don't work anymore. I went to the ER the other day. I got an MRI, and I was in and out in an hour. And the MRI was 42 minutes.
Wow.
Okay? 42 minutes to go in and out of the ER and get an MRI. Those resources that we applaud right now and go, this is so cool. It's safe here. There's no drugs. I can get into the ER. All of that goes away if you do not keep up with the infrastructure. So there has to be an opportunity to put yourselves 5 years ahead so that you can maintain that balance. The problem you're going to run into is, how do you pay for that? That's going to be difficult, because to get people to buy off on that, I don't even want to pay more. I'm like, let me see your budget. I'll tell you what you should cut. So that's going to be difficult. But if you don't keep ahead, like you said, this comprehensive plan's got me going. But
and people are going to be out there and be like, well, just don't let people move here anymore. But that's not an option. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
It's going to happen. The word's been out since the 70s. It's not just us. It's a wonderful place to live, and people recognize that. They want to live somewhere that matches their values. So they're making the move here. They're escaping here.
But we've even talked about it. It's not even that. It's the fact the world's growing. There's more people now.
The small town I grew up in is no longer a small town.
That's going to happen. So, we talk about this podcast, and we're like, we love meeting people on this podcast because they have a tendency to carry the same values and morals and ethics and everything else that we do. You can call those right or wrong. If you disagree with them, I don't really care. But the thing is that places like North Idaho, Eric says it the best, we're vying for good citizens. Okay, we're actually competing to get good citizens here that want to be productive and do those things. And you can't get that if you don't keep the infrastructure up, if you don't take care of people. If mom can't take her kids to the store and find reasonable food or get somewhere, safely, you can't do those things. So it's huge. The comprehensive plan I agree with you. I think that is the hottest thing.
Question for you, and maybe this applies to cities and not the county, and you can tell me on that. What can be done to attract more businesses to the area so that we can provide sustainable incomes to people here? I know that's a big complaint of a lot of people, is finding jobs that pay well enough to meet the standard of living out here. Is that a county issue, or would that be more like Post Falls?
Some of it is.
Okay.
Because as a business owner, I know my husband and I, we were going to invest in a place in South Carolina. And my husband went out there, everything was great. And all of a sudden we started looking at the county regulations. For a 3,000 square foot place, we needed 30 parking spots. That is not a rational thing.
Huh?
Exactly. And so I'm like, well, no wonder why this town, nobody's investing in it. I said, because the policies you have in place make it so nobody wants to be here because it's not realistic. And so that is part of the county thing, is making sure that the policies that are put in place actually encourages small businesses or other businesses to come here and have jobs and things like that. But part of it is making sure that you aren't over-regulating, because if you start over-regulating businesses, they're going to go elsewhere.
That is 100% true. Our friend Tim Henry, Frontline CrossFit in Post Falls, he made this table. He ran into that opening a CrossFit gym in Post Falls, in that there was no, I'm going to get this wrong.
There's no small business.
Right.
There's industrial, there's storage. That's what he was in between.
Yeah.
For his business.
So
and a big difference.
He was
tax.
having to pay an enormous fee to the city of Post Falls to start his business. And there's very little impact, right? He has a CrossFit gym. He has, 20 people that come in, and they wanted parking spaces and all this stuff. And it's like, you're making it so difficult for a business to start. Who would want to start?
Yeah, and that is one of the problems. We saw it when my husband and I did plumbing. It's like they come in and they're like, well, you need to do A, B, and C, and you do A, B, and C. And then they're like, oh, no, you need to rip up your foundation again. And you're like, what? Where is that?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's somebody's opinion. I'm like, I'm not doing this off of somebody's opinion. And then I found out there's another business that almost went under because the same thing happened. They came in to assess something different, and they're like, oh, you need to change all this. And she's like, it cost us $50,000. And I'm like, we cannot be doing this. Like,
And that's right. That's the careful switch with rules and regulations, because when somebody comes in and inspects your home and says you need to do all these things, it's like, well, why? Well, that's because it's the code. Well, why is it the code? Well, somewhere down the line, there was an assessment of liability. There was an assessment of liability on the county, on the city, on some business owners. Some lawsuit was done, right, where somebody lost. And all of a sudden, there has to be a regulation. Problem we're having is that we're taking these regulations and we're turning them so far that the common sense turns off, right?
yeah.
The common sense completely turns off. How Post Falls has gone without a small business tax. Is it small?
I think it was a tax. It was, yeah.
Is it the small business tax? They said they have industrial or zoning, right? Or something like that.
It was a zoning thing. So
It was probably a zoning
He
thing.
was on the hook for like a $50,000. He still is.
They wrote him down for industrial,
charge.
and a gym down the road is listed as storage. And it's completely different tax implications. It's like, hold on. You can't take a regulation and turn it so far that common sense turns off. We've lost this ability to look at something genuinely and factual and go, this doesn't make sense. I understand that the letter of the law it falls under here, but it's not. Right?
Yeah. I feel like that's a huge thing with being in that, is being able to talk with all the small businesses and say, hey, what's working well, what's not, so that way we're actually able to fix it. And that at the county level, you are able to do that for people who are in county. And
Right.
it's like, but it's discussions. It's talking with people. And I feel like that is one nice thing. It's like, I'm not afraid to go to people who are in business and say, how can we help? What's been impeding?
Yeah, and that's huge to have our elected officials doing that. I know Tim went to Mayor Westland, and Randy was like, well, I don't know, but I'll dig into it. And I think he's still looking into it because he thought it was ridiculous as well. And it's like, well, somebody's got to be able to fix this, right?
So that's right, and that's the problem. When people agree this is ridiculous, and then all of a sudden nothing ever happens, you're like, hold on, what?
Who does this?
Why is this allowed to happen now? Because it affects me right now, but it affects other people as well, and it's going to affect more in the future in a negative way. Makes no sense.
So what kind of stuff are you into? What are your hobbies? Who are you?
Oh, man.
Please tell me you have
So-
bees. I feel like you're a bee.
Really?
It's so funny because my husband totally wanted bees.
You're the best, Dave.
No, we hunt, we fish. We love to go out hiking and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Horses.
just
Do you
started-
have horses?
I don't have horses.
Okay.
I did grow up horseback riding all the time, and that'll probably be for my daughter here shortly because she's
Cool.
getting to that age.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's needing to be in that responsible mode of, no, this is your horse. You have to take care of it every day. But we do bunnies, 4-H bunnies. That is
cool.
definitely something. And big into baseball. My husband coaches both teams right now, so it is.
Oh, nice.
We do baseball like 6 days a week,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
Oh,
it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm a really big outdoors person, and it's kind of funny because we haven't been out on the boat yet, and usually we're out fishing by now. So, and just so you guys all know, ticks are really bad this year.
Oh, are they?
They
Again?
are really bad because
I've
we did
heard.
not have a good winter, so
I've
they are
never
out
had a tick.
everywhere.
You never had a tick on
Never
you?
see them. Never. Our dog had one. I'm like, where are these two?
You
Well,
don't get out enough.
Yeah.
I live on 8 acres, and the only thing I have is 9 million stink bugs.
Those things are everywhere this year.
Bro.
Do you have deer?
Yeah, we have deer.
You
My wife
have
has
ticks?
6. My wife has 6.
He hasn't been up
pet
there
deer.
long enough to know.
6
He's
pet
gonna
deer.
have ticks.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
Well,
named them all.
She's gonna get ticks from petting her deer, and then you're gonna get a tick.
You watch.
Ticks are disgusting. I hate them.
They are.
Not to get into conspiracy theories. I won't go down that road. I know what somebody out there's thinking about ticks and.
What? No.
No.
Are they little?
Yeah, have
Are
you
they
not
governmental
heard-
things?
Have you not heard this?
What is this? No, I want to hear it.
The farmers finding boxes of ticks, and then who is it?
Oh, they're shipping
Is
them
it
somewhere?
and then they're talking about mandatory. I don't know if it's mandatory. I'm a little out of my element here.
They're
Somebody
shipping
can
ticks.
correct.
Tell me somebody's shipping ticks somewhere.
I have not seen this. I'm just saying what I've heard. And then there's talk about a vaccine for Lyme's disease.
Oh.
So the theory out there is that these ticks are being introduced into the world to create fear and panic, and now there's a vaccine to save you for.
You know what's interesting too? I mean, Lyme disease is pretty bad. Is that when you look at it, and I don't know how true it is, but like there are multiple states where Lyme disease is almost non-existent.
Here.
Idaho's one
Here.
of them.
Here.
Yeah. So I mean,
Where I grew up in upstate New York, it was deer ticks are everywhere.
it seems to be all back east. So I don't know if it's really like something that I don't know why it can't survive out here. Or why
Bill
it's not
Gates
here.
is just shooting them into the clouds now. So
Yeah, he
just
sucks.
stand by. Yeah,
He probably is. Maybe that's what the chemtrails are.
it's just ticks.
Just a
Just
bunch
tick.
of ticks.
Billions
coming
of
out.
ticks. Dump it down on your head.
We
You know
just went
somebody's going
sideways.
like
Yeah, I am.
crazy
So,
right now.
You
Yeah.
You like the outdoors. You like ticks.
No,
you want bees.
don't.
Okay.
My husband wants bees. Actually, I do really like the bee thing.
Yeah.
So that will be in the future. I'm like, we're too close to our neighbors right now.
I
to
have
do
been
bees.
thinking about bees for years now, and I think next year I was going to do it this year, but we just finished our house, and I think next year's going to be my year. They have the flow hive.
That's what. Yep.
Yeah, like you
The
see
flow
that.
hive's
You see the
amazing.
ads for it, and it's just like you turn this
You
little
just
thing
turn it
and
on and
honey
the-
flows, brother.
No way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think purist beekeepers get mad because it does. It might damage the comb or something, and then I don't know if it's good for the bees or not. I don't know. Do your own research, but it's a cool. ass thing.
I've always wanted to have bees too, but here's the thing. I have honey at home, and I love honey. I'll put it on stuff all the time. I still only go through about a jar a year. I feel like I'll just go get it from somebody.
We go through a lot. Yeah, I'll hook you up, dude,
Yeah.
for $20.
No, you give it to me.
I would go with local beekeepers.
Yeah.
Well, there's been so many issues of people putting different stuff in their
That is one
their
thing I
honey.
only find local.
It's like, yeah, where it's what is it? Not maple
it's
syrup.
it's honey flavored corn syrup that
Right.
they get from China. That's a real thing.
It's crazy.
So if I go to a coffee shop, I'm always very skeptical because I like to if I sweeten, I usually drink black, chill out. But if I'm splurging, I will sweeten it with honey, and I'm more cautious. I'm like, what do you got there? Is that corn syrup or is that honey? So you gotta watch out. Anyway, I
Okay.
feel like I'm being.
And then you
a
guys
little
said you go out on the boat a lot.
We do. We like to go boating a lot, and it's been
Fishing
fun.
or recreational or what?
Both.
Okay.
Depending on the day. Depends on what we bring on the boat.
What's your
but
favorite? What lake?
I like to go to Hayden Lake.
Yeah.
What kind of boat you
That's
got?
my favorite. It's just a fishing boat.
Oh.
But we have it set up to where we can also ski in that. So
Oh,
it's been
cool.
fun because my kids' ages, they learned
Yeah.
how to ski and wakeboard, and they both got up for the first time last year. So
How old are they?
They were 6 and 8, and
Oh,
I
nice.
guess 5 and 7 is when they started. And
Okay.
so it was a lot of fun because getting up, it's like one of those
Oh, yeah.
accomplishment things, right? Because they sit there and they're like, I can't do this. And I'm like, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Let me hear you. You're going to
That's
do it.
every time he goes to sell a home.
I can't do this, Dave.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
You're gonna do it.
You're going to do it.
Okay, Dad.
That's funny. Okay.
But yeah, that and then hiking. We do a lot of hiking. We
Yeah.
like to go down to the Alpine Lakes and go back there. And
Oh, yeah.
luckily we do that a lot during midweek. So then we usually have the lakes
yeah.
to ourselves,
Cool.
and that's a lot of fun.
Midweek is such a cool thing. If you have the ability in North Idaho to work through the weekends, I have no problem working on the weekends in the summer.
Yeah, we've been doing it most of our lives, right?
Right. I mean, working on the weekends is perfect because I'm out on the lake on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Like that is the best. There's nobody out there. It's amazing.
It gets pretty busy.
Yeah. Being able to do that is phenomenal. Weekdays are the best on the lake.
Yep.
Do you guys have acreage?
We don't have acreage. We do live in city, but most of our family lives in county, and they're on acreage, so it's nice because then we get to go there and explore.
Enjoy it.
But I mean, we have so much forest land. It's quite nice up here, and that is one thing. It's like we need to be able to preserve that for future generations, because you'd go hiking and not see anybody and just be outdoors and have that nice family time.
Gosh,
it's
a really important question. This is probably the most important question on the trip. What's your carry gun in the woods? What gun do you carry?
My husband.
No, I always carry I always carry.
She's thinking because she has several, I think is what's up.
I usually carry my Springfield XD. That's something I did all the time, but we're starting to get back into because the kids are getting older, but we did shooting competitions. So like USPSA and IDPA and all those different shooting competitions. And it was fun when my husband was in law enforcement, because it was, you better not let Hensley's wife beat you, which made it a lot of fun, because then we would invite all his buddies and
that's cool.
go out and do the shooting competitions, and then some would, not come back.
What caliber is your XD?
It's a 9.
Okay.
I get my wife gun.
What ammo are you throwing in there?
My husband. I know.
It's probably G9. It's probably G9.
G9's
They're made right here in Post Falls, by the way. G9 ammo.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, I bet you it is.
Yeah.
Your husband knows.
I give my wife a gun. I put her out front. She carries my gun when we hike.
She loves animals too much. She would just be like,
She's my gun.
Just take me. I don't want to hurt you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. She would try to pet a bear for sure.
She would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah, so cute. 100%.
I was gnawing on her.
Yeah. What was I going to ask her now? I had something.
I went way off track. I'm sorry.
Oh, you took
the gun question was important
out of me. I know. It's nice to see, like, it's becoming more of a it's becoming more regular up here for people to come up and realize that the outdoors, especially people that don't, haven't lived here for a long time, like, get outside. Because I think the number one thing that's going to protect our outdoors is people using it. Right? If you get people that move up here that would rather see homes, they would rather go to a movie theater, they would rather go ice skating, indoors, those types of the disassociation with the wilderness is what's going to put us in a spot where people are okay giving up public land. Seriously, there needs to be a huge push and encouragement for people to go out responsibly into the wilderness and do those things, because we have so much public land. And my question I was going to have is Stimson lumber. I know there's a lot of Stimson lumber, and from my understanding, it seems like most places that are lumber, lumber property, they allow people to go hunt and hike and do all these things. Are you familiar with how that works with the county? I mean, are these parcels being sold to Stimson under the agreement that they continue to be somewhat public lands? I mean, is that how they acquire so much, or do you have any idea how that works?
I don't know how they acquired it. I've been on Stimson land quite a few times. I've harvested quite a few deer on Stimson land, but I'm not sure how they acquired. I know they've sold off some recently.
Right. I've always heard that they come in and they will acquire land, but a lot of it is going to be state land. It becomes theirs. They're allowed to forest it, do everything they need to responsibly for it, but they have to be able to provide some sort of state resource in terms of for people and everything else, which is great, because then you're keeping the forest healthy, you're cycling through them and everything else. I just know, people get frustrated when you have logging and all of a sudden you have, clear cutting or something close of the sort, but they've been, everywhere I seem to go, they're replanting everything.
Yes.
I mean, you go out and you see all these trees that are like 8 feet tall and you're like, it's amazing how many things they've replanted.
Yeah, that's a beautiful.
You should get outside.
Beautiful. I do every day. I go right on my porch. Refer back to my previous comment.
You live the life of luxury on that big old porch.
Stop it.
Beautiful in your treks.
Stop it.
I'm on plywood. I had to cut my deck off. That sounds so terrible. I had to cut my deck off.
This is Idaho, buddy.
I know.
Stop it.
Now I have OSB that we walk on to get in my house. I'm like, this is great. We had a water line burst.
I was going to say, be careful. That is very slippery.
Rural living. Yes.
Convenient location. So,
okay, question back on track here, Dave. Come on. County commissioners, is it a full-time job? Is there pay involved? How does that work? Or is this like, are you still going to keep doing your normal day job, your normal 5-day jobs, and county commissioner?
So I currently work part-time as a nurse. I wouldn't be doing that anymore, because really I think you need to be able to be available full-time.
Okay.
You have meetings at least 3 days a week, and availability to the people of the community is big, and being able to go through and go to all these different meetings that they have and being available, I would say that is definitely a full-time job. Luckily, which I don't know if you know or not, but when when you own a bunch of businesses, the biggest thing is upfront. It takes a lot of time, but after a while, you start being able to delegate and offload stuff. So I would definitely be taking this as a full-time job.
Yeah, we haven't figured that part out yet.
What?
Working all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And not delegating at all.
Yeah.
Dave delegates to me.
Oh, yeah. Go do a podcast, Seth. My goodness. No, it is true. But if you really enjoy doing stuff too, if you have a passion for it, then, everybody always says if you really love it, then it becomes less work, right? It becomes something that you actually enjoy doing. But you do need time off for it. And that's a stressful spot. Going to county commissioner.
As I said, I worked in the second busiest DR in the state. And I did charge nurse for many years doing that. And that was life and death situations often. So I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, this is a different type of stress, right? Because you're responsible for making sure your county stays amazing like it is. So that is a whole different type of stress.
Oh, it's very, very difficult. Yeah. And then as county commissioner, so when is the election? May 19th, right?
Yes. Yeah.
May 19th.
May 19th.
Early voting starts May 4th through the 15th.
Okay. May 4th through the 15th. That's going to be an important election. If you're new to Idaho, please stop. I'm trying to talk.
I was not laughing.
Please
I was choking.
Stop. Okay.
I was choking.
If you're new to Idaho, this is a very conservative state, right? Like whenever you have any sort of, anything outside of the main election, for the most part, conservatives have a tendency to take seats in counties, cities, state, everything else. So, the general election, very different than everything else.
Yeah, primaries are most important in Idaho.
General election, you can pretty much say whoever won that primary is probably going to win that general election. I mean, that's the big thing. So, it's really, really important that obviously if you're getting out to vote and you think that this is important, then May 19th is really the time to do it. It's not all the way in November, right?
It's not all the way in
May 19th.
November. It
is so important because really there's a lot of disassociation with voting anyways. I mean, trying to get people to the polls is embarrassing as it is. So making sure that people get there for the primaries in Idaho is super, super important because you have to have the right people that are running that, right? And they're probably, if you win, you're probably going to be sitting in that seat.
Did you get a chance to listen to our podcast with Mark Fitzpatrick? He's running for governor.
I haven't yet. I was just telling him, I'm like, I haven't been able, except I got to see him speak at Pachyderms. He was at Pachyderms about a month ago. They meet on Fridays.
It's a group? Okay.
It's a group that meets, and he spoke there. And
he will be back. He's coming to Post Falls to the Bunker Bar in early May. I don't have a hard date on that yet, but that is happening, so he'll be doing a Q&A there. We were very impressed with him. We don't generally endorse candidates, but between him and Brad Little, Mark all day long, in my opinion. So yeah, I was wondering if you had listened to that one. So
yeah, he's definitely a true conservative. You listen to him, and
yes, some people would say he has wild ideas. He posted something the other day about that Idaho will be executing convicted child sex offenders by firing squad, and I was like, well, I mean, that's legal now in Idaho. That is an option, and I'm all for that. So
it's crazy.
That's not crazy to me.
It's so it's just it's different to see how ideologies change so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do. They change completely. And then you get somebody like Brad Little, who is,
I invited Brad on the show, by the way, and he has not responded. So.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, whatever. We got Mark Fitzpatrick then. So, but truthfully, like to watch things change, you get somebody like Brad Little. Complacency is tough to watch because the incumbent name, that title is really heavy, and you get people that can get into a spot, and because they were voted in before, unless they've done something that is so dramatic that you remember it as not liking it, they pretty much stay, right? Yeah. I mean, you have to have a reason to vote somebody out. You have to be in love with one person, or you have to remember something that incumbent did bad. And if you're living in a state like Idaho where you love it and everything's good and you feel like your taxes are safe and you feel like all stuff, you have a tendency to vote in incumbents. And it's very easy for them to become very complacent, very tired, very non-performing. And then you end up with people that aren't doing what you want anymore.
They're safe, right? Brad Little is very safe. I went out of my way. I paid money to go hear him speak at the resort when he was here. It was a Chamber of Commerce function. And, it was like, oh, it'll be a Q&A. And I was like, oh, sweet. Eric and I went and we were like excited to ask a question about resort taxes in Coeur d'Alene, right? And, or designating Coeur d'Alene as a resort city so that they could charge a bed tax. And then it came time for the questions, and I quickly realized they were all pre-planned. They knew exactly who they were going to go to, and he knew exactly what questions were coming, and no one else got to ask a question. I was like, okay, I see what's up. Like, that's who you are. You don't want anything else. And a guy like Mark comes in, and he'll go into a bar and let anyone ask him a question. And he's challenged Brad to a debate, and Brad has not responded as far as I know. And I'm like, I want you to debate. As one of your constituents, I want you to go up there and show me who's the best. Why are you not doing that? You're only not doing that because you're afraid.
It's important to have people debate, and you're going to be in that spot too. There's a lot of things that are going to pop up, but being able to ask questions and get two different ideas, it's okay to have people that disagree on it. In fact, it helps you think, and it helps you look at something from I've been trying to invite people on here that are completely opposite political spectrum as we are. But the truth is, I'm not here to fight. I want to hear other points of view as well. I'd love to.
I think the biggest challenge is that we only have a men's and women's bathroom in this building, Dave.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna run into a sticking point.
Yeah.
But it's an open invite.
Fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that is I don't have an incumbent coming in that I'm going against, but it's like I'm that third party person able to come in, because I do think that's something you need every once in a while. It's like when businesses are struggling, they get the third party person in because they're able to have a different perspective. Mm-hmm. What used to be compliance for years, you're like, why are we doing it this way? This is not working. And so you are able to sit there and go, we need to change and have a new perspective of we can actually be having more, efficiencies in our processes by implementing different things that you didn't realize were being efficient because you've been in it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How are you sitting? There's no polls on this stuff, huh?
No, there's not.
So you really have no idea until it's election time.
It really is. And one of the hardest things is getting that word out, and it's, having people to know who I am, and it's, that is one of the hardest things is introducing yourself. And it's funny because you're talking about we were crazy today, we're doing all this change, and I'm like, yep, I know what that's like. My husband's sitting there with my calendar, and he's like, all right, so you won't be home till late. And I'm like, yep, because you get phone calls and you're like, yeah, I'd love to meet with you, because I feel like that is a big thing. I have met with so many different people who have so many different opinions, and it's fantastic because I've been able to hear from so many different areas of the community. I've been down to Worley, all the way up to Athol. I'm planning on going down to Harrison because I feel like it's important that you actually see what's going on and be able to talk to people.
That's good you're going to Harrison, because that's like a little forgotten pocket of Kootenai County, right? It's a cool town. But
it is cool. It's hard to provide for.
It's hard.
It really is.
It is.
It's a juggling act because when you look at we got to take care of the majority. Well, they're not there, and that makes Harrison really hard because nobody wants to see that small town fail.
No,
I'd love to see that place thrive. I really would, but there's a distribution of funds that have to happen.
Yeah. Did you meet with Whitney down at One Shot Charlie's? Is that who you met with? Who'd you meet with down there?
No, I'm still going down to Harrison.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to go say hi to Whitney.
I'll go down there.
She was on the podcast a while back. She's a riot, and One Shot Charlie's is a cool spot.
Yeah.
Well, we're at about an hour.
All right.
It went by fast, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any last thoughts, Dave?
No, I was just going to ask, for people that are interested, what is the biggest thing that you want people to know about you before they go to the polls and those types of things?
I feel like that I'm a diverse person. I've been in nursing, so I've been advocating for people for a really long time. I'm a small business owner, so I know the fact of the importance of making sure we don't have a lot of government overregulation. And I've lived my life fiscally conservative. You can see that I've been able to develop a bunch because I have been that responsible person in my life. And I feel like that's very important with the person that's representing you, is that they've been actually having that in their life. I'll treat the government the same way. I've helped my family do a lot of their investment in that. And it was funny because my father-in-law one day goes, well, this must be an easy one for you because it's not your own money. And I said, actually, it's the hardest one for me because if you fail, I have failed me and you. And he's like, I guess I